Well, greetings and salutations, Series 7 test takers. This is Series 7 Guru coming to you from my off-grid studio, getting our kicks on historic Route 66 with an explication request. If you have an explication request, you can send it to explicationrequest@guruexamprep.com. An investor purchases 10 carbon port authority J&J bonds in a regular way transaction on Wednesday, October 18th. How many days of accrued interest are added to the bond's price? High probability recognition question on Series 7 to know that on the Uniform Practice Code, which standardizes trading practices within the securities industry, buyers of bonds pay the sellers not only the price they've agreed to for the bond, but the dollar amount of the accrued interest. That is very testable. You should definitely know that on the Uniform Practice Code, corporates and munis have 30-day months. We didn't want our high talent men and women to have to remember nursery rhymes and knuckle humps about how many days have September. The only thing used in the actual calendar are Treasury bonds, Treasury securities. All right, so let's break this down. An investor purchases J&J, so that means it pays interest January 1st and July 1st. I'll play seller, you play buyer. I say, listen, on January 1st, you're getting a check from the issuer that represents the entire 180-day period, the entire 6 months of interest. And not all of that belongs to you because they were my bonds in July, they were my bonds in August, they were my bonds in September, and they were my bonds part of October. When I got paid on July 1st, that was for up to, but not including July 1st. I have not been paid for any of the days in July. That first column is always going to be either a 30 or 16. If this were a J and J 15, it's not, but if it were, when I got paid on July 15th, it would have been for up to, but not including the 15th. You'd owe me 16. You owe me for all of August. You owe me for all of September, and you owe me for part of October. Trade date is when we agree to terms. And so here, the trade date is Wednesday, October 18th. That's when we agree to terms. That is not when ownership changes hands. Ownership changes hands on the settlement date. And so you became the owner on the 19th. That is settlement, October 19th, Thursday. So you would be entitled to the interest going forward from then. So you owe me for up to, but not including settlement. So you owe me for 18 days of accrued interest in October. Boom. And now we simply add those together. Boom. Whoop. And that's 108 days. So that is the answer to the question. It's 180 days of accrued interest. How many days? Now, another way you can do this, if you want to use my shortcut, for lack of imagination, I call what I just showed you the long method, but you can take settlement if you want to use the shortcut, and you can subtract the last interest payment day, and boom, let me put that there. Last interest payment date. And that too will get you the answer. And you're less likely to, when people miss this, they usually miss it with one day. So boom. So we want to use the shortcut. Okay, so settlement is 10, 19. If you want to use the shortcut, let's put that there. Boom. And you would simply subtract the last time it paid interest, which in this case is July 1st. And this part I can't help you with. 7 from 10 is 3. And then you got to remember that we're using a base 30 system, right? So 3 months would be 90 days. And then one from 19 is 18 days. And again, we arrive at the answer, which is 108 days. Okay, hope that you found that helpful. Low probability. But more often than not, I'm not going to ask you to do this. Once in a blue moon, somebody tells me that they had to actually calculate the number of days. But the concept itself, the memory recognition of it is very testable. Some bonds trade flat. That means no calculation of accrued interest. And that would be bonds in default, zero coupon bonds, and income or adjustment bonds. So you could expect maybe an accept question about where we're not going to calculate accrued interest. All right. Well, remember, inch by inch, your Series 7 is a cinch. Yard by yard, your Series 7 is hard. And I will see you for the next exercise.